Okay. So let's all come on over, Diane. You want to stand, or you're gonna? Okay, cool. So this is week 3, right? You guys have been doing this now, I guess 2 full weeks, right? Eating wise. Let's start by just looking at your numbers, just like you did last week, right? So we'll go ahead and pull up your InBody scan or your app there. Go over to history, and let's look down all the way to total body water first, so you can make sure that what you're looking at is accurate, right? And so there we just want to see that it's relatively the same, right? That it's not 2 pounds higher or 2 liters higher, right? Whatever that looks like. And then once you've checked that out, you can scroll on up to your muscle mass. Cool. So who saw an increase in muscle mass this week? Nice. Okay. Cool. Who saw a decrease in muscle mass? And who's staying about the same? Same. Okay. And then so let's look at why. Well, let's scroll to fat mass next and check that out. So it should be right underneath it. Body fat mass. Who went down? Nice. Okay. Who went up? A little bit up. And then who stayed the same? Or I guess we were all up or down. Okay. So then let's look at why that might be, right? Why that trend's happening. Go ahead and go to MyFitnessPal now. And you're going to click on the top little, so if you click on diary and then click the top little banner right there that has your numbers on it, go to yesterday, and then click on where it says today, change it to week view. You guys all see that? So right here. Click on that. There you go. And then we should go to yesterday. There you go. Okay, so we can go over to calories. Check that out first. Who is hitting their calories? Got it right on. Ish. Within 100 calories? No, nobody?
Sometimes I'm
okay. Okay, on the average though, what did we hit there? Average, who's lower than their average is aimed for? Most people. Okay. How about above the average? No? Nobody's eating extra? Okay. And then let's go to your nutrients, where it says there, and check out your protein. Protein we're hitting. Who's hitting their protein? You guys within 20 grams? Okay. We probably want to get that going up, right? Who's who's under 10 than they need to be? Tim, where are we at for you? For protein. Okay, okay. I'm sure I'm under. Okay. 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 Got it. And then how about your carbs? Check those out. We're low on carbs. Are you higher on fat? Okay. So this is where we get to this is where we get to that like individualization, right? Some people function better on fat, right? And that's okay, and they like that because that's just how they've built their diet, and there's no problem with it, right? There are a place for carbs, which we'll talk about, especially around training. But then as far as the total of the day, if you're like, I have good energy, I'm eating enough, and fat is the bigger number, that's okay, right? As long as we hit our protein and then our calories fall where we need to, the fat and the carbohydrate ratio is up to whatever feels good with your body, right? If you're like, well, I feel like terrible and I have terrible energy and I'm eating all this food and it doesn't feel good, then maybe we need to look at that ratio and we decide if, maybe I do need more carbs or maybe I need more fat, and we're kind of in this in between. But that's where the personalization of all of it comes in. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So if we're looking at these numbers and you're like, well, I didn't build muscle or I lost muscle, right? Then we need to say, okay, well, as far as from a nutrition standpoint, did I hit my calories and did I hit my protein? Right? Those are going to be the biggest levers to pull on when it comes to the eating. If we didn't hit those and we didn't build muscle, then we have an answer, right? If we hit those and we're still not building muscle, that's where today we're going to talk about, right? What may be going on, what also is part of this picture other than eating a lot of food. Okay, Dan, you had a question?
Hitting the calories is not so much the problem, it's staying within the calories.
Okay, like are we going over?
I could go over.
You could go over. Okay, yeah.
And also because of my stature,
Mm-hmm.
I've been living on that 2,000 calories, but I can't handle 2,000 calories a day because I don't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Okay.
Protein.
You're hitting the protein. Okay. We'll look after and see where your calorie target is. Just make sure it's set right and everything. Okay. Um, because for most people, if we're eating with our whole foods, right, our fruits, our vegetables, our meat, nuts and seeds, and not having a bunch of dirty bulking things, as in donuts and yeah, I did. Donuts and our bread and our all those things we know that are off plan. Then it should be a lot of food, right? Like way more than you're used to even. Okay, yeah. So sounds like how are we doing with getting all that food? I know Jen mentioned it's hard.
It's hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm doing an extra protein shake.
Okay, right.
Just to sometimes if I'm like, oh my god, I'm 20 grams of protein, I'm like more than I need, I'll just chug a protein shake.
Yeah.
Like
And this is where like basically what you're doing right now as far as for Buns and Guns is eating to build muscle, right? So it's going to take sometimes getting that supplement in there. It's going to take making it a little bit of a chore to eat, right? So it's like okay, my time's up, I need to eat more.
I just like what I did is I pretty much am eating the same as I would in a normal, like what I was eating normally, but instead of like 6 ounces of like ground turkey meat, I'm putting 8 ounces
Yeah.
or 9 ounces in, and so I'm just eating. So I'm eating the same like lunches that I would normally eat, but
Right.
I'm just adding more. So I'm like bumping up my ounces of meat.
Perfect.
Like almost 13.
Yeah. And this, Lubum, for you, like that 20 grams that you're falling under, 20 grams is about what a supplement would have, right? A little protein drink or so. Yeah.
The protein shake is like that volume, and that's hard because I'm not hungry ever.
Okay.
Except after like the workout.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to eat like the every 3 hours and lots of nuts and seeds. And I think this is where I have to look over to see what are the protein sources.
Yeah. And you could take
maybe like a higher fat.
So the higher fat will make you a little fuller, right? So yeah, we want to pull that down a little bit for you. Yeah, that will help you not feel quite as full. Yeah. The other thing with supplements is that basically it's going to be mostly protein, right? So it doesn't tend to have a whole bunch of fat and carbs and everything else. So like if we're looking for something to get down that's not going to make you feel overly full, that's a little hack to do it.
Right? Also, like I do it sometimes. I'll do like if I'm really tired after like a day of work in the gym, I'll go home and I'll eat like a can of chips, 30 grams of protein, along with whatever else. Like the two along with like my two pieces. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
Like, I'm just trying to think of other like things that are not big portions that can be well at protein.
When
I think a lot of it too for me is like the busy schedule. I just have to be better at like making sure I have my protein early in the morning, like before the workout, maybe doing that something just
Yeah.
skipping over the schedule when you want it.
Being intentional and like planning it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Internet is a good hack.
right.
You're really happy.
Yeah. And that's part of the learning process, right? It's like, okay, well, and this may be something that you can carry even afterwards. Like, okay, this is how much protein I should be getting, and it'll make that version of it easier than this version, right? Okay, so we've got some ideas there about what we may be able to be doing. So today's all about like, okay, what if it's not happening? What if I'm not building that muscle? What are other factors that play into this? And like it says here, it's more than just eating more, right? We could eat more and then we could still not build muscle, or we could be putting on fat. Like that's not what we want. So there's 3 factors we're going to talk about today. Making sure that our training is actually building muscle, right? Like we can come in here and have a terrible workout, and it's just kind of tearing your body down, right? So we're going to talk about is how can we make sure that when you get in here, you're actually giving your body a reason to change and setting it up for success. Then we've got after training, right? In between, we're going to go through recovery. If we're not doing recovery, our body's not going to build. Right? We'll talk about that some more. And then consistency, right? It's not something that's going to happen in a day or even a week, right? We need to stick with that consistency, give your body all the tools to be building muscle. So we're going to start with that high quality training. You need to set your body up to build, right? So this is the lesson I learned here, right? This is me. I didn't set my body up to build that week, where I was just, it was a terrible workout, and you can tell I'm like pale and not really set up. I'm normally pale, but that's really pale. And then you've got Chandler after the workout. He's cruising, right? He did great. And he had fueled himself a little bit more effectively. That is the Open. Yes, that was my first week of the Open when I had everyone asking me, what's going on? What, are you okay? Right? I looked bad. And that was, so we're going to go talk about this next. But basically, yeah, like I had people, do you need water? I had coached all morning and hadn't eaten and hadn't hydrated and all the things we're going to talk about. And so this is the result, right? Everyone could tell that I did not set my body up for that workout, okay? So first thing we're going to talk about is hydration. I think this is something I certainly know I can improve on, but I think a lot of us go throughout our days, we're busy people, and you get here and you're like, oh, I didn't drink water today. I need to drink some water, and then you're already dehydrated, you're already not doing well. So hydration is one of those things that if we do it really well, leading up to our workouts, it's going to improve our workouts. Right? We're going to feel better going into it. There's a study out there, right? I was looking at all these different things, and they have this curve. The more dehydrated you are, the worse your performance is, right? So this is your percentage of dehydration. They basically took a whole bunch of athletes and they purposely dehydrated them, and then they had them work out, and they measure their performance at different ranges. And so at 1% dehydration, so that'd be 1% of your body weight, right? So that you're down in your water. So let's say you're 180, that's 1.8 pounds of water. So if you look at your scans and you're like, oh, I'm down 1.8 pounds, that would be the equivalent there, right? And so when we're 1% down, then we're performing at 95% of our best, right? So as you go down, we're all the way down here at 4% dehydration, you're only performing at 75%. Your body isn't prepared to build muscle like it should be. You get in here, you're weaker, you're not going to be as strong, you're not going to be able to do as much endurance, all of those things. So that's just the numbers with it. But really what's happening is, number one, it reduces our blood volume. Did you guys know that when we're drinking water, it actually increases the volume of blood going through our body? Yeah. What was that other? Right, the flow, the amount, all of it. Yeah. And so when we're dehydrated, we have less blood going through there, blood volume, right? And so what ends up happening is it decreases the amount of output our heart's going to do, right? So just because there's less of it to push around, the heart's going to push out less. And so then what happens is that's less going to the muscles, right? That's less going to the heart and lungs. Well, it's as far as getting the oxygen there. And we have a really bad workout, right? So that's part of it. The other thing is then, because your body is working on getting that less blood volume around, we actually sweat less, right? We have less blood flow to the skin. We have less of that cooling mechanism that we want to happen when we're here working out, especially going into summer. And then the other big thing is we actually increase the rate of our muscle glycogen use. So glycogen is the storage in our muscles, right? That sugar that we store in there to get our muscles moving and working hard. When we're dehydrated, we increase that. So we burn through it way quicker. So what does that mean? We burn our fuel faster. Right? So when you come in here dehydrated, everything's just going to be off. And you guys have probably felt that, right? You come in and you're like, well, I either didn't drink enough today or I didn't eat enough today, and I feel terrible. Right? And you're just dragging on that workout, and it's not going well. And so there's definitely reason behind it. Right? So there's our reasoning. And once again, this goes back to we need to make sure that we are hydrated enough to make sure that while we're trying to build muscle, we set our body up to build muscle. Okay? So how to hydrate. And a lot of these you've probably heard lots of times before, right? Drink throughout the day. If you're getting here and you're having your first sip of water and you've had just coffee the rest of the day, that's not an ideal scenario. Right? An hour before exercise, drink 8 to 16 ounces. That was something that came from Academy of Sports Medicine. Basically, kind of getting that, like your body has some hydration already going there. And then the other thing, as we're going throughout the day, you can base, so there's all these different recommendations. Oh, you should drink half your body weight in ounces and this and that. Really, they have not come to a consensus with that. Right. You can look in, there's several different ways to look at it, but the one consensus is look at your urine, right? If we're down here, clearly we're really dehydrated, right? Here we're a little bit dehydrated. We don't want to be like entirely clear, right? We should have a little bit of yellow tinge in there, but that's a good way to look at, am I hydrating enough, or am I even going overboard with this, right? So that's something to pay attention to, especially as we're getting into these summer months and as we're making sure that your workouts happen in a hydrated state. The other big factor is electrolytes, right? When we sweat a whole bunch like we do in our workouts, we are depleting our electrolytes, right? And so that's gonna make, you guys have probably felt cramps before in your workouts, right? That's your muscles not getting what they need. And so when we are depleting that day after day after day, because we're all working out like 5 times a week at least, right? We need to replace them. So this would be a good time if you recognize like, oh, I don't drink enough water. Oh, my urine looks like that all the time. Try some electrolytes, right? After the workout, throw some in a bottle and have them then. You're gonna be replenishing yourself and kind of staying ahead of that dehydration rather than just letting it continue, right? Yeah, and then the other big thing is if anybody's been hungry during this time, they're like, oh, I need to eat. And you're already eating a lot of calories, right? You may be running into this. Dehydration and hunger, we confuse a lot of times. It may be that we're just dehydrated and we didn't drink enough water or enough electrolytes to go with that. So paying attention to that throughout, I mean, really forever, but especially in these weeks to make sure, like, how can I make sure I'm setting my body up for this? Okay.
Well, I think, yeah. I remember when I was pregnant, this was in 1979, the midwife said to me, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated.
Right, right.
I was like she was really big into it.
Mm-hmm.
Back then.
Yeah.
But she's like, if you're thirsty, you're already
dehydrated. Right, right, right.
I was like, I'm eating all the time and I'm thirsty all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when was the last time you had water?
It's true. Yeah, we don't want to drink like past our thirst. Right? We don't want to get to this point. There is danger in having too much water. But we do, and that's why I say like we don't want to go to the point where it's just entirely clear with our urine. They are salty, and that's because there's salt in them. We want the salt in there. Yeah, some of them. Mm-hmm. The Element, I like their like raspberry something. That's the only one I like because it's got flavoring in it. But yes, they are salty, but you also,
I mean, I know I need salt.
Right, recognizing the purpose behind it. It's like, okay, this is going for my muscles. Let me gag down this electrolyte drink, right? So that we can get it down. The Fit Aids also have electrolytes in there. There's some in there without sugar. So, okay. Okay. I don't know. Okay. So there's a bunch of different ones out there, but I'd really encourage you to think about electrolytes, especially coming into these summer months. We all agree and understand why hydration important to set us up for a good workout and a good muscle building. Yeah? Cool. Then the other part of this is our fueling, our pre-workout fueling, right? We don't want to start our workout with an empty tank. So one thing with that, yes, we're eating all throughout the day. You're working on getting all those calories in. But in order to give ourselves like that extra little boost in the workout so we can lift more, so we can work harder and have that energy really quick, eating prior to the workout. And this is kind of where the personalization comes in. Some of us can't eat 30 minutes before workout, right? You feel full, bloated, all of that. But we're looking for somewhere in that like anywhere from 30 to 2 hours mark. We should be taking in something that's going to fuel our workout. Carbs are going to be our quick energy source. Right? Those are the things that we can turn into energy really quick. Fat doesn't tend to do that, right? It's more of a long-term energy source, which is great, but as far as like coming in here and doing that, that's what we're looking for. And that's why like you guys see some people, they're like, oh, I need to eat this right before, or they have their pre-workout, or they have those things. Those are typically, well, there's other stuff in there, but there's typically carbs in there. And then there's typically like caffeine and all of those other things to boost you up. But the carbs, this is something we should be consider if you feel like I'm dragging in my workouts and not getting what I need. Because that's just going to propel you forward there. Okay? Questions on that? Cool. So then let's get into recovery, right? With our workouts, and Monique will go into this a little bit more next week, because we're going to get into like the fine anatomy and all of that of the muscle. But did you guys know, and I think if you've been to Fitness 101, you should know, when we work out, we're actually tearing our muscles down, right? You're getting little tiny micro tears in there. You actually walk out and your muscles are in a worse state than when you started. And so then what that means is basically between that finishing of the workout and the starting of the next workout, the recovery clock starts. Right? We have to be able to give our muscles the tools to repair and grow. What's happening is we give them the change, right? And then they try to adapt to what we're doing, right? So basically, like if you think about it, you come in here, you work out, you get really heavy, and then your muscles are like, okay, I'm going to be exposed to that again next time. So what do I need to do? I need to adapt to better handle that. So adaptation is a change or the process of change by which an organism or species becomes better suited to its environment. So when we come in here, you tell your body one thing, right? You tell it, hey, we're going to do this, and we're going to work out hard, and we're going to tear you down. And then your muscles say, that's going to keep happening, so I need to prepare myself for it. And so that's what it's doing. It's adapting during that whole time of not working out, right? And the more that we drive that adaptation, and then we can push it more the next time. And we get stronger and stronger, and each time the muscles are having to adapt to a new input. Make sense? Okay. So ultimately, recovery is what's driving that adaptation. If we don't have adequate recovery, we're going to return to the workout the next day, and your body's not going to be any better off. It's not going to have built up more resistance towards what we're putting it through. So what does that mean, right? Our optimal recovery, we have to eat, we have to sleep, and we have to be consistent with this, right? Yes, there's also our stretching and our mobility and, Epsom salt baths and all of those things. And those are things that we should do, but these are going to be the essentials, right? If we're not doing these things, then we're not going to build muscle. Yeah, Russell.
What does Epsom salt baths do?
So Epsom salt baths are relaxing the muscles, right? The magnesium in the Epsom helps to do that. It also gets blood flow, opens up those arteries so that we can get better blood flow to the muscles.
Just by being fat.
Yeah, the heat is a big part of it. And then the Epsom salt, like I said, the magnesium in there helps a lot too. Yeah.
I was shocked after the murder. Tuesday I was dying. And Justin said, go home, and just it was amazing. I had like the magnesium Epsom salts. I stood for about 20 minutes. I can live.
Right. Loosens up everything, and yeah.
I'm gonna live. My legs are not gonna fall off.
Good. Yes. So that can be a really big part of it. Yeah. Yeah. If you haven't done an Epsom salt, go try it out. Yes, for sure. So let's talk about eating, right? We talked about the pre-workout eating to set us up for good performance and good optimal training, right? The other half of that is after our training. So there's this concept of called anabolic window, right? Anabolic is our building, right? We're building something. And so what this is, period after, specifically to anabolic window, a period after resistance training when the body is thought to be especially responsive to nutrients, particularly protein and carbohydrates. And then during this time, muscle protein synthesis increases, theoretically making it easier for muscles to repair and grow. Okay. Has anyone ever heard of this before? Okay, so a couple of us have. It used to be they said, okay, you have to eat within 30 minutes of training. Then they kind of did some more research and they found, well, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. The window is likely a little bit bigger than that, like a couple hours. Right. And so, there's varying science in that, right? It doesn't have to be right away. But the sooner we get that to our muscles and the sooner we get that to our body, the better, right? So waiting the 4 to 5 hours is not going to be as good as getting it. We recommend really in that first hour or so, 1 to 2 hours. But really, that's the concept behind it. It's like, okay, your muscles have just been torn down, right? They've run through all those stores of glycogen that we have them, their energy stores. So let's start that recovery process really quick while they need it. Right? If we wait till the next day or several hours later into dinner or wherever we're at, they're still receptive because they still need those things, but it's not going to be as quick. It's not going to start that recovery process to adapt as soon. Okay. So what we're going to look at here, yeah, sorry, Dan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Within an hour or so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so here's why, right? And what we want to make that up of. So the two things that we need, especially that are super important right after our workouts, are going to be our carbs and our protein. Like we talked about, when you work out, your body, all your muscles have these stores of energy, and you just burn through them, right? Especially with the high intensity work that we do. And so carbs specifically are going to start to replenish those stores. So the muscles are going to be able to take those in and build up those energy stores so they can use them again in the future, right? So that's where the carbs come in. I know we've got all the grains here, but we do want to stick on plan there, right? This is where the dirty bulking versus clean bulking comes in. Clean bulking. So that's where, getting your potatoes we can still get the starches. Those are still going to help. Potatoes, fruits, vegetables, all of that is going to be really important here. There's a lot of variation in recommendations as to how many grams or so. But really getting, we should be looking at, between these two, it's more of like a meal, right? When we look at that, it's not like, oh, I'm going to have a banana. Yes, a banana is better than nothing, but we need to give it more than that to start that process. So that's our carbs, right? Those are super important. And then our protein, this is what's going to actually stimulate the repair. So like I said, we'll talk more about it, but we get these little tears. And so the protein, like we talked about last week, are building blocks in our body. So if we don't give the muscles building blocks to work with, they're not going to repair those tears. We give them quickly, and we get those repairs going quicker, right? And so then it can actually build up stronger. So that's what's stimulating muscle repair. When we look at protein, this is where we should be getting at least 20 to 30 grams right after our workout. There's this whole chemical process in there, but there is studies that show that actual muscle repair chemical and process takes about 25 to 30 grams to initiate and get going. Okay, so we're looking for pretty substantial there. Okay, fats, they are less important in the immediate right after workout, but they do have, especially the healthy fats, right? Our nuts, our seeds, our avocados, all of those things, fish, all have long-term anti-inflammation benefits, right? So that's why there's a little asterisk there, because these are the ones we want focused right after workout, but fats certainly have their place. Okay. Anybody surprised about how like we really want a meal after a workout? Yeah. Okay. Jenny, I see the cogs turning. Yeah.
I like sometimes I'll drink a protein shake while I'm making my meal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then it'll be like a couple eggs, some bacon, whatever, or like some sausages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Potato, like whatever. And
Good.
so I'm eating. So I'm getting like almost 60 grams sometimes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
Protein shakes have carbs?
They don't. Not typically. They may have a little bit depending on which one, but right. Yeah. And so that's where you may look at, okay, if I'm training, whatever time you're training, I'm gonna have my pre-workout snack, and then I'm gonna have my meal right after, depending if you're training in the morning or evening or wherever we're at. Okay. And then we got our sleep, right? So yes, this is how you sleep to build muscle, guys. Yeah. Yep. I think sleep is certainly important across the board. Right? We're going to talk about it in relation specifically to muscle building, but sleep is where we are going to actually be building, right? In our REM sleep or our deep sleep, so past REM sleep, that's when we're releasing our growth hormone, and then all the other hormones that we need. But our growth hormone specifically is what's going towards muscle repair. So if we, one, don't set ourselves up for a good time period of sleep, we're talking, like it says, 8 to 9 hours here. Athletes actually have been shown to need more sleep than the average person, right? Because we're doing more recovery in that sleep. Then we're not going to be giving ourselves a chance to get into that deep sleep, and we're not going to be stimulating those hormones to actually do the work, right? Let us do the work. And when we talk about the 8 to 9 hours, we've talked about this before, but the 9 hours in bed typically only equates to about 8 hours of sleep, right? There's something called sleep efficiency. Most people only sit about 80%, and that's considered healthy. But that means you spend 100% of time in bed and only 80% of it is sleep, between all the waking up or the turning over, coming in and out of sleep, which is kind of surprising. I was surprised to find for myself when I tracked it. I was like, I'm in bed 8 hours, but I'm getting 7 hours of sleep. Kind of sad, right? Kind of disappointing.
Shows you
yeah.
The deep sleep versus, dang, I'm awake.
Yeah.
I'm awake,
right.
But I'm not in deep sleep.
Yeah. And so in deep sleep, like your body will get that deep sleep, and then as you get later throughout your night, you turn more REM sleep, and it shifts. But yeah, it's true. So more sleep is better, right? We need to give our chance. And then that's where also, if we deal with things where we're not getting long chunks of sleep, we're waking up every hour, we need to look at addressing that, because we need to get that deep sleep. We need to get that deep sleep to get our hormone release going, okay? Then there's a lot of studies around sleep, right? Where we've talked before about if you have good sleep, you have better chance at fat loss, right? But then the other things related to like our workouts and our training and our muscle building is when we have poor sleep, kind of like that graph we showed with hydration or performance going down, similar graph to increased risk of injury, right? So if we get 8 or 9 hours of sleep, our injury rate goes way down. If we're underneath that, it goes up depending on how many hours we have. Right? So then we also, like, as far as the muscle repair, that's all going on. But then it also circles back to us having good training and giving our body enough of a workout to build that muscle. If we don't get good sleep, we get poor performance, right? We also then get our increased stress hormone. And you guys know what it's like to feel stressed, right? We're typically a lot more tired. We eat a lot worse. We store more fat, like all the things that go with that, then go into affect our workouts too. Right? So sleep I don't think anyone's surprised by it, but definitely part of our recovery, right? And it should be as important as our training in that sense. Okay. Any questions on our sleep? Nope. Okay. So then we got our consistency, right? And this is consistency. Number one, we've got our consistency in the gym, right? Giving our body a reason to build muscle. And that's where we're looking at, like, especially when we're really looking to build 6 workouts a week, right? And when we're doing those workouts, we're looking for them to be really well set up so that they can be beneficial to us, meaning eating and fueling our workouts. And then making sure that we are able to push ourselves there. If you come in and you're not feeling great and we have to go really light that day, or we have to cut it down because you're just dragging, that's not going to give your body that stimulus to actually build muscle, right? So that consistency is really big here, but then also being consistent with our recovery and being consistent with our eating and all of those things. It's not, like we said earlier, it's not that you do it one day and all of a sudden, hey, I've got more muscle. It takes weeks and months and years to really build to where you want to. And it's all of it. It's not one piece here and, oh, I want to do that piece, but not this piece. It's all of it together. So we've got our working out, fueling your working out, aiding your recovery by eating right after the workouts, and then sleeping. Right? And then we've got all those extras like we talked about, stretching, Epsom salt baths, and aiding that recovery. Okay. So any question on consistency? No. Good there. Yeah, Diane. That's the goal. Yeah. 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 So we got to give your body, like, especially when let's say normally you do 3, right? 2 or 3 workouts a week. Right now, and you've been doing that for weeks, right? Or years or months or whatever it looks like. Your body's adapting to that, right? It's like, okay, this is what we do, and that's where I'm going to sit. And so by giving it those 2 extra days or 3 extra days, you're giving it a reason to change.
How long is a workout, say, after the regular 3 days, those other 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
You could do your home.
So we've got like the home training on the app, right? A workout, though, as you've seen, can be any length, right? We have some workouts where you work out for 3 minutes and it's intense enough that you are sore the next couple of days, right? So it's more about that same thing, the intensity, the actually giving your body a reason to change. One thing with our kind of speaking to the 3 workouts versus 4 workouts versus 5 versus 6, if we look at that in the sense of our weeks, right, in our year, if we work out 3 times a week, that's actually less than half the week, right? You multiply it by 52, you get 156 or whatever that is, right? And that's a lot less than half of the year, right? And so you're telling your body that this is how important it is to change. Less than half important, right? But as we get up there, and let's say we're doing 5 times a week, now we're doing more than 50% of the week. We're giving it a reason. It's realizing, like, this is the norm. Movement and exercise is normal. And that's where then we can push more. And we're looking at, 260 or whatever workouts in a year, which is upwards of 70%, right? So that's where that consistency and giving your body an ongoing reason to change. Okay. So next week, or this upcoming week, is, since we have our seminar on Saturday, we'll have our lecture on Friday at 6:30. Okay. I know.
You have a cocktail?
Yeah. During happy hour. Protein
Are we
drinks.
going to tape it?
We'll tape it, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Correct. Yep. And then go party after, or go sleep. We get our extra sleep, right? Yeah. So, and that lecture will be more, like I said, on like what's actually happening on with those muscles, more about the adaptation, the training response, and also how to make sure like you can kind of adjust your trainings to actually work on the muscle building when we're looking at, okay, should I be going faster or slower with more weight, or what that all looks like. So we'll talk about all that and then what to do moving forward. Cool. Any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you guys. Cool. Mm-hmm.
Good on the water.
Thank you. I think